When we opened up our doors, we were in one country. We had one product. We had one distributor.
At our very first Christmas party in December of 2002, I think there were 13 employees and 6 founders sitting around a table. And I stood up and I said to everyone, this is just the beginning. And I've said that countless times ever since.
Today, we have over 1 million distributors. It's an amazing position to be because you have people who are actually talking about your brand.
Starting to expand around the world now. We're in 34 countries currently. Crazy to think of where we were and where we are right now, but more importantly, where are we going? And so this has been set up to scale much bigger.
When we started out of the gates, there was a lot of discussion about wanting to break from the sameness of our industry.
When it came down to establishing Zango, not only did we want to be a role model in the direct sales industry, we wanted to be the leader as to what it means to be a networking company of this century.
We've been through some phenomenal growth, and we've never had to change the core of this company because it was built right. That predictability allows our distributors to focus on growing.
In some cases, some companies would take 50, 60 years before they'd even get to this point, and we cram this in such a short amount of time, but always with in mind what's best for the business, what's best for our distributors.
I always said that if I was going to start my own company, it will have this, and it will have that, and it will have this, and I'll have that. Not until I joined Zango did I really see all the facets of that diamond that I had as a vision of what a company should be.
Only about 12 have ever made it to a billion-dollar company, and I wanted to find one of those next billion-dollar companies, and sure enough,
Zango holds the potential to become the largest network marketing company in the world. That would make it about a $10 billion a year company and put us into over 100 countries.
It's a company that's proven that you can count on, that still has this huge upside. I mean, we're just really getting started. You know, we've got all this worldwide expansion, and we've got different product lines that we'll be coming out with as we mature as a company. So companies like Zango are so rare that when you find them, you know, you're lucky.
We are a nutritional company, first and foremost. We're a direct sales company, but we're also a company that has a philanthropic side, a community service side, and a company that has an energy and a personality and a certain savoir-faire, if you will.
We knew every working piece of this machine that we had created. And the distributors that came in, the distributors we were talking to on the calls, they were hearing our voices. They were seeing us, not this separated founder group that no one ever had access to. We've always had a very open door policy.
I think it's pretty unique. If you bring in a distributor, you can actually kind of feel of which founder you'd like to present them to, because there's different personalities in the founders, and there's different personalities in the people that you bring in, and they all relate, you know, to somebody.
We've been working from home for over 20 years, and we've been in a couple different companies, and not once had I ever sat down with a founder or even an executive and had a personal conversation in all of those years.
I've been involved in companies whereby, you know, you can't even talk to the owners. And in Zango, you know, I traveled with them.
They get involved, and they do meetings for us, and they stay with people until the last distributor leaves the room.
And here we were, our very first night meeting Joe Morton, spending an hour and a half with him around a coffee table. Right then, I knew we had something different.
They almost wanted the distributors to succeed more than they wanted to succeed themselves.
The traveling that they do, the work they do, the caring that they do, that is what the heart of Zango is.
People who've been in this industry for years say, we've never been treated this well in our lives. And that's what we want to do. We want to treat people with the kindness and respect that they deserve.
They started with the right intention, right from the beginning.
And every successful company I've seen had substantial people behind it, but most of them have one.
My comment about the 6 founders was, my goodness, Ed, if one goes nuts, at least we have 5 other sane men.
When I saw 6 founders, I feel like I'm safe. I feel like I'm in good hands.
The way the company was put together, This is, these guys know what they're doing.
Zango took areas of expertise from various parts of corporate America and fused them together to create what we have here today.
I've been in business over 45 years. I've run 3 companies in the past. I have never had a management team so talented, so dedicated.
Each and every one of the founders of this company has their own characteristic that helps to support each and every level of Zango's business.
I asked them about their wives and about their kids. I remember specifically asking the group there, I said, what kind of skeletons are going to come up later that I'm going to discover?
I've never seen that. Most founders would be running out the back door so they didn't have to face distributors who had ugly questions for them. No. When you talk to a founder, they ask you this, what can we do for you?
When the head's right, the body's right.
Somebody asked me once, so where do you see Zango going several years from now? I said, you know, another Coca-Cola.
You could come in and know that our dreams of creating the biggest, the best, the most influential company in the direct sales industry would not suppress your ability to dream and accomplish anything that you ever wanted to accomplish as an entrepreneur.
We decided we do not want this product in a capsule, pill, or tablet. We wanted this as close to the way that it was used traditionally as possible to make it commercially available.
If you have taste as a barrier, and you're going to be providing things in the ideal form, which is a liquid in order for the body to be able to take it in, you've got to make sure that you don't have this taste barrier.
We're able to take the mangosteen, put it together in a formulation.
It's then blended with blueberry, raspberry, cranberry, strawberry, pear, apple, grape, and cherry. And that's done for 2 reasons. One, to create a proprietary formulation for Zango and for no other company. And secondly, to assure that we have a unique product, that we have a palatable product that can be easily consumed.
Trying different things, tasting it to get it exactly right to what it is today. And the formulation is called Zango. How do you describe Zango even? People will try to describe the taste of Zango. It's Zango.
It's like it's hard to describe a taste, but a little bit like a mix of a strawberry, cranberry.
It's a little difficult to put into words.
It's like you're asking me, trying to describe the taste of salt. It's not sweet or sour. This is magnificent and sweet and fruity and full of
a little bit sour, a little bit sweet, and a very sophisticated palate.
I remember tasting Zango for the first time. It was like strawberry and cherry, and it was a combination of explosion in my mouth. It was fabulous. It was refreshing. It was delicious, and somewhat addicting.
Most people tell me they drink way too much, you know, when they first get their first bottle, because it is so delicious, and you just want to drink more and more and more of it.
The very first thing we noticed in our own family about Zango juice was the fact that not only, you know, would our kids drink it, they would drink too much of it. They would drink entire bottles at a time. We actually had to label bottles and get them to slow down.
You'll never meet a 3-year-old anywhere in the world that can pronounce Garcinia Mangostana, but we have this brand that kids will ask for by name.
Had we put it into a retail chain, the product wouldn't have moved because you can't tell a story from a shelf.
Somebody that signs up today for $35, I think it's a 3-step process online, it's as simple as that, is in business for themselves.
And I had 5 pharmacies in the city of Philadelphia. We had 36 employees, 6 trucks delivering on the street.
I had to see patients on a daily basis. I had to do surgeries. I had to take calls at night. Sometimes I go home maybe at 11 o'clock at night.
I would get calls in the middle of the night, people who were out of oxygen, and my respiratory therapist wasn't answering the phone, and I had to go 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to deliver oxygen.
I realized that here I was doing 60, 65 surgeries a month, but if I don't show up, you know, my income, you know, dropped down. Then I was introduced to the power of residual income.
In this type of business, the investment is small, there are no employees.
In 12 months, I was able to duplicate my income as a surgeon. So I said, well, I might as well just close my practice and do Zango full-time.
Traditional business, no more.
And I remember sitting on the front of the boat and watching the sunset and making my phone calls and answering my emails and thinking, this is life the way it should be. I didn't have a cubicle. I didn't have to report into an office every day. We were working our Zango business the entire week on a sailboat in the middle of the Caribbean.
Initially, our goal with this was to make enough money so that Dustin could be at home with our children. Within 7 months, we were able to do that.
We can just talk to our friends, and pretty soon we're signing them up and building a business.
You can be a stay-at-home dad or a stay-at-home mom. And to me, this is a unique industry that gives you that opportunity, but you've got to want it and you've got to want to take it.
We're not jumpers by any means. And when I saw Joe's story, I said to him, this is it. This is the one.
This was pretty unusual as well, so I thought she was like crazy. I mean, you know, I was the one always looking, you know, and here she says, this is it, get me some of that juice.
Never in my 31 years of networking have I felt so secure that it's going to be there for my grandchildren.
People ask us all the time, is the opportunity as good now as when you first got started in the business? And I will say to them, you know, we actually had our best year in 2009. We rank advanced, our business grew, our checks increased, and this is at a time when most people and a lot of friends and neighbors were experiencing tremendous hardships.
It's never too late when the mind is right and we take action.
There is no secret. There really isn't. You need to have a dream. You have to believe. You have to make a decision. You have to be determined to win no matter what, and not let anybody step on your dreams, because it is possible in Zango. I can't promise you any other company, but in Zango, you can do it.
As my wife was always fond of saying, you know, what we do is we tell people we care about something we believe in, and we do it consistently. And that's key in this business.
That's why we're growing so much, because we do believe in what we're doing, and I'm sure that this is an opportunity for everybody.
My sponsor called me 5 times. I said no 4 times. Twice I was a complete jerk. So if you're watching this DVD, understand this: somebody cares about you. Somebody is willing to get out of their comfort zone to do what most people won't do. And that's all this is a comfort zone business. If you hand out DVDs, CDs to people, you're going to get results. You don't have to be a superstar. You shouldn't change who you are in life to try to make this work.
I remember thinking, this is a lie. This cannot be true. I mean, nobody's paying this much. This is crazy.
If there is one thing I'm most proud about the compensation plan, is that we are regularly applauded for its simplicity.
And it's easy to explain. I mean, I can explain the basics of it and feel like they'll understand and be able to go on and explain it to somebody else because it's so simplified.
And I wanted to be with the company where if I sign a distributor up who sells one product to one person, they get a check in the mail.
You can get in anywhere, and you can make more money than somebody who got in at the very beginning. That's what's so special about this comp plan. It's how hard you want to work it is what you'll get out of it.
Everybody gets a check, regardless if you sponsor one person who buys one product or whether or not you sponsor hundreds or thousands of people or build a dynasty organization. Everybody gets paid according to their own effort. So to me, that's the perfect thing to look for.
Our simplicity allows us and our distributors to focus on growing their business and being rewarded for that, as opposed to getting involved in the nuances of trying to play games with a plan or figure out the gimmicks.
I have so many people that never had any experience of making more than $10 a month, making over 1,000, over several thousands, because it's simple. Everybody can understand it.
I know no other company that lets you, with 3 people, get the depth of the pay plan, 9 levels, and have all its global bonuses and receive all of the pay plan.
After my previous experience, oh, it was heaven. I left the other company without understanding the compensation plan after 13 years. I swear.
I was involved with 3 companies over a 5-year period, all of which failed, and I had a cynical mindset. And so when my sponsor contacted me about Zango, I congratulated him for his new venture. I thanked him for his time, but I said thanks, but no thanks. When he called back to follow up, he asked to speak with my wife. And while I said no, she said yes. And that got my attention. And we decided to take a close look at Zango.
$500 a month would have changed my life because it would have made my car payment. When we got to 500, I knew we could make 1,000. When we got to 1,000, I knew we could make 5,000. When we got to 5, it wasn't so tough. I knew we could get to 10. When we got to 10, it was like, ooh, we can have this or that or whatever.
We started out rather slowly. Our first monthly residual check was a whopping $88 US. And then it went to 168 and then 763. Now, none of those amounts were very impressive, but the rate of increase was impressive. And so I sat down at that point in time and I extrapolated into the future, given this rate of growth, where will we be in 12 months? And many of the people that had previously said no said, wow, now we get it. Now we're ready. 11
of my friends and some people that I've met before joined in. And in about 18 months, that grew to 45,000 distributors.
They say these things are pyramids. Multi-level is not a pyramid. There are people in my business that make more money than I do. And you know what? They deserve it. They're better than I am. And that doesn't bother me a bit to say, because it's a fact.
It's better to come into Zango right now because everything is in place than when it was 6 years ago when I came in, when we were trying to decide on what business model we were going to use as a distributor, as to how we were going to actually work the marketing plan so it worked best for everybody. We have all of those things worked out, ready for today's average person or network marketer to come into Zango to have an absolute success.
Well, there are people that believe that you've got to be early to be successful in network marketing. And I would simply make the following observation. I'm 17 levels down from the company, and yet we have the largest check. It's kind of interesting to see that, and that tells that we have a level playing field. There are people in my organization that hold the potential to build a larger check than me.
All of the people that said no to me in the beginning are in my business now. Every one of them.
We know that this is the best plan B that there's ever been created.
You've got a product that works, you've got a management team who just loves what it is, and you've got to have a compensation plan that people can actually make money.
It's not difficult. It just requires consistent application of tried and proven principles that will get predictable results.
It works. You can make more money in less time with fewer people in Zango than any other company.
I was living in Southeast Asia, and I would hear this story regularly about 2 botanicals. One's called durian, the king of fruit. One's called mangosteen, the queen of fruit. And I was very intrigued with how the Southeast Asians, when they eat durian, it makes them heaty, is what they'd say. But then they say you always eat mangosteen afterwards because it cools your body down, brings your body into balance. When you hear that kind of folklore, you realize there's got to be something to it. And it's not just the same in Malaysia. Same stories throughout all of Southeast Asia. And I thought that was very intriguing. So what is it about this mangosteen? What is it about this queen of fruit that brings your body into balance is what caused me to start asking these questions.
And I remembered Joe calling one day, and he asked me if I had ever heard of it. I knew pretty much everything that was in my products, but I had never heard of the mangosteen.
I remember the question Joe asked me when he was talking about the mangosteen. He said, did Mom ever sell this in her health food store? My mom had a health food store growing up. We sold a lot of supplements. No, I don't recall ever seeing mangosteen.
My brother Gordon and I, we have a brother who was doing a PhD at the time. And we said, can you research these botanicals? Can you tell us if there's any research on it?
The durian, the king of fruit, and mangosteen, the queen of fruit. And anyone else, I think this would have been an odd request. But in our family, it really wasn't, because our mother owned a health food store. My dad was general manager for a natural product company in Canada when we were growing up. We grew up in the industry of natural products and network marketing. And so it wasn't out of the ordinary for us to say, hey, have you heard of this botanical? Have you heard of this botanical? So when Joe asked me, I said, sure.
See, after 20 years to be a mother and a wife and homemaker and all that,
I realized, hey, I need to take care of myself or do something on my own that I like to do. I raised 5 children in health and nutrition. I know that, and I like to have a health food store.
Joseph, he began at an early age to see we had aloe vera plants in the house. We'd get a cut, a bruise, an abrasion, a burn. We'd take a pair of scissors, squeeze out some of the gel, put it on. Wow, that's cool. He said, one day I want to discover the next aloe vera.
And if you look at some of the powerful stories that have been introduced to the marketplace, are stories like aloe vera, stories like ginseng, stories that have resonated with the populace and gone to market in a powerful way. This had every element and more.
This mangosteen fruit has such a long history that you go back to evidence of mangosteen being used traditionally going back 1200 BC in the floors of caves in Indonesia.
And I thought, wow. I remember us looking at each other just thinking, well, we have something huge.
When I first heard of the mangosteen from Joe, I was intrigued, but very skeptical, because it was a fruit that I wasn't familiar with. And how could a fruit that I wasn't familiar with have so many powerful attributes about it? How could it do so much good that people were actually researching it throughout Asia?
It's not a new fruit. It's just new to us. It's been around for centuries.
That was really that quintessential moment when Gord, Aaron, and I looked at each other and said, we have it.
It took a dreamer like Joe to discover it.
And myself, Joe, and Aaron, always our career paths always kind of overlapped over the years. And we would play the someday game, and someday we'll start our own company and we will do this, and someday we'll start our own company and we won't do that. And mangosteen started to become more and more obvious to us as a anchor botanical for this company. You couldn't ask for a better botanical.
My very first meeting, it was in March of 2002. I was called to a luncheon, and I arrived at the luncheon, and there was Gordon Morton, Joe Morton, and Aaron Garrity. They had big smiles on their faces. I thought they were happy to see me. They're really excited about what they had discovered in this mangosteen fruit.
They introduced me to a new phrase I hadn't heard. I mean, I'd learned a lot of Latin terms in the legal community, but they talked about Garcinia mangostana, or mangosteen. I'd never heard of it. Why hadn't we heard of it here? Doesn't grow in the U.S. You can't get it in North America, period. So this unique fruit they were talking about excited me on what it was.
I was somewhat skeptical, having run a network marketing company before. I wasn't sure I really wanted to do another one. But their enthusiasm was backed up by what I took home over the weekend, studies about this mangosteen fruit. I called Aaron on Monday morning, said, we've got to find a way to bring this product to market.
The very first presentation of Zango as a company brand product was with Dwayne Dyer.
And I remember meeting with Gordon and his brother Joe and Aaron Garrity.
We went to one of those restaurants where they have a paper tablecloth and the server writes his name with a crayon on it, and he left the crayon.
As we started talking, he said, we're starting a company, and he said, we're thinking about calling it Zango, and he actually wrote it out.
And then I circled it for dramatic effect.
I was trying to look for everything why I would not want to do this. And I remember thinking, that's very cool.
He maintained quite a poker face that night.
And I just told her the story of what had happened.
Dwayne called me, and he said I had a chat with Melody, his wife. And he left a long, pregnant pause to make sure that I sweat.
And I remember Melody saying, immediately, without any hesitation at all, she said, you should do this. We should do this. These guys are gonna make it, and gonna make it good.
He said, Mel's in. I'm gonna resign from my corporate position, and we're gonna do this full time. I think that was one of the greatest moments of my life.
Zango brought the mangosteen to market. There's never gonna be a company that can lay claim to that point, because we did it first.
It's about the size of a peach. Not very big, but beautiful.
It's very photogenic. It's purple, and you open it up, and it's almost milky white or snow white inside. And it's got a stem, and on the bottom of it has a little starburst pattern that tells you how many segments are inside the fruit.
You had to learn how to open it. It's not like eating an apple. This was an exotic fruit not known to most people. And as we opened it and ate it, it's the best tasting fruit I've ever tasted, bar none. We had a lady who came in who was a great distributor, and she knew this business inside and out, and she was sitting there, you know, pushing off, and you could tell the body language.
When they started describing it, and they said Southeast Asia, and I said, are you talking about mangosteen?
And she let out a squeal like a schoolgirl.
I grew up with it in the Philippines. So when they were talking about it, I was so excited because it's not a hearsay for me. And as a child, I would eat the fruit, and my grandmother would say, you're gonna give me back the rind. Because my grandmother would pick it up and string it and put it by the window, let it dry.
Folklore was sufficient for my family, but for the time, you know, the early 2000s, 2002, the world had evolved to the point where you need scientific validation. People want to know why something is working. So it was a very nice surprise when we saw that there was a sizable amount of research and studies and peer-reviewed and empirical data supporting the efficacy of this botanical.
I started finding a lot of mangosteen stories that have been recorded over the centuries, and not just from one country, but from countries all over Southeast Asia. And then I started finding journal articles, and over the course of about a year and a half, I compiled this 1.5 feet of research that included scientific articles and portions of traditional texts documenting a fascinating history of the mangosteen fruit from the 1400s all the way to modern day.
Over the years, I've been exposed to a lot of botanicals, and this exposure has allowed me to gain an appreciation for the richness of botanicals, how they adapt to their environment, how they are able to elaborate their own elements which are unique to them, which then can be used for humans.
I love the marriage that can occur between tradition and modern science, where modern science helps explain why botanicals do the things that they do. And something unique that sets the mangosteen apart is this novel set of phytonutrients called xanthones. I'm not a chemist by any means, but I'm familiar with every major chemical group you find in nature, and I'd never heard of xanthones before.
Xanthones? I remember Gordon, Aaron, and I looking at each other saying, have you heard of this? And Gordon and I grew up in this industry. We've pretty much seen it all. And Aaron had launched hundreds of products in this industry and knew the industry very, very well from a botanical perspective, what's out there. And yet we looked at each other and we thought, I've never heard of this one before.
Xanthones are a class of phytochemicals. Now, xanthones are like flavonoids, and flavonoids are also elements which have been elaborated to protect plants. And we know that flavonoids have a great deal of biological activity in humans. And the most important thing, perhaps, is that they exert their beneficial effects without any kind of toxicity at all. And xanthones share many of these same favorable effects, plus they provide other effects above and beyond that as well.
The thing that sets the mangosteen apart is that it just doesn't have one property. It has numerous properties. And you have these different branches of science all studying these numerous properties the mangosteen fruit has.
Say, wow, what's in this juice? There must be something, you know, in it, you know. And I was amazed at all the research that I found. There was 47 research papers on the mangosteen. And I said, wow, this is amazing.
By the time I was introduced to the mangosteen, I had already read a great deal about other natural products. So when I started to read about the mangosteen, there was really no question in my mind that this fruit was something very, very different, even among botanicals. Because when you can help the body do its job more effectively by providing nutritional support with a botanical, you've done something very important.
This is a life-changing product. We're able to help people that they're able to take this product each and every day. And yet, this product is different for everyone.
This is why the people were receiving results from a internal and an external perspective. And we realized we had something very special here.